North American trade was rocked this week as the Trump administration slapped a sudden 25% tariff on all copper imports from Canada. The move stunned industries and markets, straining relations between two of the world's closest allies. With no warning, manufacturers and investors scrambled to assess the fallout. This marks a sharp escalation in Trump's protectionist agenda, reviving old trade tensions and casting doubt on the stability of the USMCA. Copper is essential for construction, electronics, and electric vehicles, making this tariff a direct hit to integrated supply chains. Canadian officials condemned the move as unjustified, promising swift retaliation. The timing is puzzling. The U.S. economy faces inflation concerns, and new tariffs risk raising costs for American businesses and consumers. The action is seen as politically motivated, aligning with Trump's America First doctrine. Stock prices for U.S. manufacturers reliant on Canadian copper dropped, and the Canadian dollar weakened. Businesses now face uncertainty, forced to rethink strategies built on stable, tariff-free trade. The abruptness of the decision is a stark reminder trade policy remains volatile in today's political climate. The stage is set for a major North American trade conflict. The White House justified the copper tariffs by invoking Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, citing national security. Officials claim over-reliance on Canadian copper threatens the U.S. defense industrial base and critical infrastructure. Commerce Secretary Linda McMahon argued that surging Canadian imports have weakened domestic producers, risking dependence on foreign sources for military needs. Critics, however, call this a flimsy pretext, pointing out that Canada is a close ally, not an adversary. Many see the move as economic protectionism dressed up as security, aimed at fulfilling campaign promises to protect American jobs. Using Section 232 against Canada stretches the law's intent, which was meant for hostile nations. President Trump doubled down on social media. "We're bringing our copper industry back, bigger and stronger than ever before. America first." The administration dismisses criticism, prioritizing domestic production over free trade, even at the cost of straining alliances. This approach risks undermining decades of North American economic cooperation. The national security rationale is fueling skepticism and deepening the rift with Canada. The U.S. and Canada's copper trade is deeply intertwined, with $7.2 billion in Canadian copper flowing south in 2024. This copper is vital for U.S. manufacturing, construction, and especially automakers in the Great Lakes region. New tariffs will raise costs for manufacturers, forcing them to absorb losses or pass them to consumers. The construction and electric vehicle sectors will also be hit, threatening green energy goals. The tariff threatens years of cross-border economic integration, making copper a flashpoint in North American trade. Canada wasted no time in striking back. Within 48 hours, Prime Minister Trudeau announced dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs on a range of U.S. exports, also set at 25%. The targets, American copper products and politically sensitive goods like bourbon, oranges, cheese, and lawnmowers. The strategy is clear: hit key U.S. states to maximize political pressure on Washington. Trudeau declared, "Canada will not be bullied. Our response will be commensurate and reciprocal." Canada also launched a formal USMCA dispute, arguing the U.S. tariffs violate the agreement. The retaliation means higher prices for Canadian consumers and businesses, but Ottawa is betting the pain will force a U.S. policy reversal. The tit-for-tat escalation risks a prolonged trade war, with both economies caught in the crossfire. Canadian officials frame their response as a defense of sovereignty and fair trade. The stakes are high. Political, economic, and diplomatic costs are mounting on both sides. The trade conflict is now a high-stakes gamble. Both governments are under pressure to stand firm, while businesses and workers brace for impact. The North American partnership faces its toughest test in years. This copper clash echoes Trump's 2018 steel and aluminum tariffs, which also cited national security and triggered Canadian retaliation. That earlier dispute led to billions in lost trade and job losses on both sides before a deal was reached. Studies show such tariffs rarely achieve their goals. Instead, they raise costs for manufacturers and hurt more workers than they help. The 2018 tariffs were eventually lifted as part of USMCA negotiations, but the scars remain. The current copper dispute follows the same playbook. Surprise tariffs, national security claims, and disregard for trade agreements. History suggests these conflicts create more losers than winners, especially in downstream industries. The willingness to reignite trade wars, even with USMCA in place, signals a persistent belief in tariffs as leverage. This approach institutionalizes uncertainty in North American trade. Businesses and investors are left wondering if the rules can change at any moment. The cycle of confrontation threatens the stability the USMCA was meant to ensure. The lessons of the past are being ignored, at great risk to both economies. The future of North American trade hangs in the balance. Most economists agree. The copper tariffs will hurt both the US and Canadian economies. Dr. Emily Blanchard of Dartmouth calls it a textbook case of self-harm. Tariffs are taxes paid by US importers, and costs are passed to businesses and consumers. The Congressional Budget Office projects a net loss of US jobs, as gains in copper mining are outweighed by losses in manufacturing and construction. The tariffs and Canadian retaliation will fuel inflation, raising consumer prices. Experts warn the move undermines the USMCA's credibility, eroding trust, and deterring investment. Trade lawyer Mark Warner notes, if the rules can change overnight, why invest in North America? Targeting Canada, a close ally, is seen as strategically short-sighted, especially amid global supply chain concerns. Philip Levy, former White House advisor, argues the policy weakens North America and benefits global competitors. The consensus: this trade war is a lose-lose proposition. The economic and strategic costs are mounting fast. The tariffs are hitting North American manufacturers hard, especially those with just-in-time supply chains. An auto parts maker in Michigan, reliant on daily Canadian copper shipments, now faces sudden cost spikes and production delays. The construction sector, already grappling with high costs, will see budgets swell and projects stall. The green energy push is also at risk. Electric vehicles, wind turbines, and solar panels all depend on affordable copper. The tariffs act as a direct tax on the energy transition, clashing with climate goals. Companies are scrambling to reconfigure supply chains, seeking alternative sources or shifting production abroad. Some may move assembly to Mexico or Peru to bypass tariffs, undermining North American integration. The result: inefficiency, higher costs, and a fractured supply network. The USMCA's promise of seamless trade is under threat. The copper dispute is unraveling years of economic cooperation. In the end, ordinary people bear the brunt of a trade war. Consumers will see higher prices on everything from wiring to cars and electronics. The tariffs act as a regressive tax, hitting lower and middle-income families hardest. While a few U.S. copper jobs may be saved, far more will be lost in industries that use copper. Canadian retaliation puts American farmers and factory workers at risk, as their exports face new barriers. The United Auto Workers warn that disrupting cross-border supply chains threatens jobs on both sides. Uncertainty causes businesses to delay investments in hiring, stifling growth. The broader cost is lost opportunity and economic dynamism. Political rhetoric may focus on protecting jobs, but the real price is paid by workers and consumers across North America. The trade war quietly erodes prosperity for all. The US-Canada copper dispute has plunged North American trade into uncertainty. Both sides are digging in, with negotiations and USMCA dispute proceedings looming. Industries brace for prolonged disruption and higher costs. The key question: can a diplomatic solution be found before lasting damage is done? The USMCA's credibility is on the line. If rules can be bypassed, investor confidence will suffer. The outcome will set a precedent for future trade relations in North America. Will this be a temporary setback or the start of a more contentious era? The future of the continent's economic partnership hangs in the balance.